Welcome to a lesson on practicing and reconnecting with your weapons and weapons forms in a small space. Again, wintertime, challenging to practice your weapons unless you have access to a big space. But we can still do some weapons, we can reconnect with the weapons, and all that training that you did outside and in the summertime, all those weapon forms, they're in you. And you can still get a lot of weapons work and connection done. One of the things I would say right away in the cold weather is take your weapons out. Check your swords out. This is a really good time to inspect them. Make sure that there's no rust forming, or give them a good clean, or give them a good oiling. Do some care and maintenance, and just basically handling your weapons. You'll reconnect with them, especially if you did a bunch of hours throughout the summer and the good weather and your basic training. As soon as you pull these weapons out, they're going to reconnect with you. One idea about oiling your weapons. So if I were to put a bunch of oil on this blade, and then store it like this, gravity's going to push that oil down here, and sometimes this can start to rot or eat out the bottom of your scabbard. If you're going to put a lot of oil on the blade, then you want to store it horizontally. If you're going to store it vertically, just put a little bit of oil up at the top. It'll make its way down. A good time to dust, clean, check your weapons, maintain them, reconnect with your weapons. You'll be surprised how much muscle memory, how much energy connection that you've put in there. It will come back out. Master Leung always said that we connect to the tip of the weapon. It makes us extend the energy out. And you will feel that. You'll feel that, all of a sudden now you're much, much bigger. Your energy is much more out when you have your weapons. Again, you got to watch out for furniture and lights and all of that. But if you have this much basic space, you can do some training. So, for instance, Tai-Chi sword, double-edged sword. You do some of the training. I call this the lazy D. It's like a capital letter D on its side. And this is a really good way to practice your parries and your cuts, and coordinate your nose, navel, and the tip of the sword. Eye on the tip, 3-finger grip. You can practice all of these basic actions. 2 hands. If you haven't been doing your opposite hand, your left hand if you're right-handed, this is a really simple way to start to practice to get used to having the sword in your other hand. One thing that's really good, I'm trying to check, make sure I got room. One thing that's really good for your wrist are just some basic circles. You can start at the top, let it fall, catch it at the top, let it fall, and then smooth it out. And same thing backward. You can let it fall, catch it at the top, let it fall, catch it at the top. People suffering from carpal tunnel, this is a really good exercise just to loosen up and to get some of that energy out of your wrists into the sword. And even though it looks like I'm just using my wrist, I'm actually using my hip and my waist. Backward. And depending on how high your ceiling is, what your space is like, you can do some basic techniques. Here's a basic upward figure 8. In the Wudang sword, it's called wash or clear. You can do it downward too, as long as you got room. Nice and relaxed. I'm working on coordinating my navel with the sword. I could take some sword postures. For instance, brush the dust against the wind. That has a change step. you can get creative. You can start to do all kinds of little pieces. One thing to practice is the door of protection. So this is called the door of protection from Western fencing, but they're the exact same blocks, defenses, parries, and drills from all martial arts. So here's the basic door. Here's one sword, two sword, three sword, four sword, five swords. So you basically protect your body with five swords. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's so many ways you can do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Down this way. You can do like that. All kinds of ways. And you can practice that. Just practice getting that idea that you're standing in a doorway and there's an attack coming. So maybe I want to practice my moving, a little bit of footwork with that. Lot of ideas. A really good practice for inside is the spear. Now, I'm not talking about the Shaolin spear, where I would be doing a lot of twirling and overhead. Talking about more internal style spear. As long as I have some room, I can do some of the basics. So I'm at a little bit of a diagonal. I really don't have room here, but as soon as I go on the diagonal, I've got plenty of room. So you have your basic open, close, and issue. Open, close, and issue. And I would do this 5 or 10 times each side. If I don't show you the other side, it's just because of time, or I'm not paying attention. But I try to do everything left and right at all times. Then the small Kai Ho Fa, or Kai is open, Ho is closed, Fa. You can start to add techniques, so you can do Kai, close, Ho, Fa. Open, coil, close, thrust. Or open, coil, close, thrust. A lot of ideas. You can still practice that. Lots of them. A lot of ideas. You got your space. As long as you have your basic space, you can practice holding the spear. Now I'm holding it with my whole body. Practice hold the spear a little bit each side. Give you a really good workout. A very good friend of mine gave me this. It's a practice cold steel Kukri, and he found this to be true. I find it to be true as well. Sometimes just having something in your hand that you don't have to worry about the walls. You can do some of your forms. You know, you can still do your forms. And just having something in your hand can reconnect that. Master Liang had told me that some people would practice inside with a chopstick, just to have something in your hand. You know, you can do your Bagua sword. And I'm really not, you know, I'm not worried about hitting the walls. It gives me a little bit of idea how to steer the edge, how to steer the point, and just having that makes me reconnect with my weapons. When I do have a space, someone is kind enough to let me use their yoga studio. I go in there and I'll bring my weapons. I do, you know, all my weapons forms left and right, as many of them as I can. And then again in the summertime, then I do my weapons every day, work on that, and I kind of bring my summer practice into the small space. So I would say, you know, grab your sword, check them out, reconnect with them. You know, if you know the karambit form, you'll see on my website the karambit form is very simple. 4 directions. There's plenty of room to do the forms, and just get creative and check in with your weapons. They've been missing you. So I hope you got something from this lesson. If you did, send me a message and keep practicing.